All right. Live. Test if I'm actually live. Test, test. Test, test. Test, test. Is the audio?
Test, test. Test, test. Is the audio? Test.
Okay, it's working. All right. What? Oh, great. Okay, we're live now. Blasted. Okay, here's the. Okay. See if anyone gonna show up in 2 minutes. Hey, Abe. Thanks for showing up early. Let's wait for more people to show up. I think the clubhouse has some technical issue right now, so some people not able to listen to the stream. So let's wait for a sec. And feel free to I can just go put you on stage. All right. Gosh, grab to the stage. Oh boy, the clubhouse is buggy now. All right, let's wait for a few seconds. Our live stream just started at 9:15. Hey, Ivy. Thanks for joining. Just waiting for a few more minutes before we get started. All right. Yeah, the Clubhouse server is a bit unstable right now. So just wait for a few seconds for people to show up. All right. Speaker. Let's see. All right. Julia, are you on stage? Wow, this seems like there's some technical issues for Clubhouse. People's been kicking in and out for the room. It's okay. I should sing a song. Before I just speak. All right. Julia, can you hear me?
Yes, I think the Clubhouse have some problem.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. All right. It's okay. We can get started. Anyway, we are live streaming on YouTube. So anyone who interested in this topic can catch us up on YouTube later. Or how about let's wait 3 more minutes to see actually the server become more normal and more people able to join. Hey Chris, welcome to the room. Hey Lan Xing. I gotta pull you up anyway. All right, so we have critical mass a little bit here. So the reason I set up this room is really I myself is a huge fan of Google Design Sprint. Probably I have run it probably back 5 years ago when it's still quite a hot new methodology. I have run it with my own design community group. I run it within my own company. I run it with the even just recently I run it with even a monk group, and they actually able to apply Design Sprint to their online the COVID online conference. So that is something worth noting. I myself even have joined a workshop hosted by Jake Knapp himself. So yeah, I will consider myself as a huge fanboy. So today I'm thinking to going through the format of I actually have a presentation of a detailed walkthrough of every single step of how Google Design Sprint works, right? So it can roughly break into 12 different topics. The way I want to do it is like I will walk through each a single topic, a single step of Google Design Sprint. I will explain how it works. I will maybe showing some case studies of how I use it in different workshop, in different topic, right? Then I'm gonna open up the stage. Everybody, anyone who have questions, have comments. Okay, Albert, you may understanding this step wrong, or actually have something to add to the conversation. Please join me on stage after every single topic, right? So today I just plan to run it for only 2 hours, right? I don't think we're able to cover all 12 topics, but it's okay. I will starting this room every single week until all the topic is covered. That is my commitment. So one disclaimer, we're gonna live stream this on my YouTube channel. So I have a record here. So anyone want to listen back can do that by going to my YouTube channel. Albert is just prototyping. That's my YouTube channel. But also that is a disclaimer. If you coming out on stage, you are recorded. So, but no pressure, no pressure. We're not gonna show your face, just your voice. All right, so let's get started with. If you guys want to, I actually put some slides up, but you actually don't need to. I will verbally describe the whole slides. But if you want to look at the slides, you can click on my profile and going to the my Twitter, and I have the slides on my first tweet in my Twitter. Right. So anyone want to look at the slides, feel free to do so. Tulia is my wife. She will helping me to moderate. Okay, I will add her as a moderator. So to to make sure actually we can have everyone speaking orders. All right, so let's get started with this Google Design Sprint, right? So what is Google Design Sprint? So Google Design Sprint is actually invented by Jake Knapp. He is originally the Gmail lead designers, and later he joined Google Venture. So Google Venture is the venture capital branch of Google. So they invested in startups, right? So like Nest is the one of the famous startup that invests in early phase, later being acquired. And Slack and let's say Blue Bottle Coffee, for example, right? So the fun thing is for Google Venture, they actually add Jake as a partner of the venture, actually, which is very high up in the venture capital structures. And the reason he add a designer into a Google Venture is really seeing designer can help the startup to solve very complex problems, right? So that is exactly what Jake and John did when they working at Google Venture. They inventing this 1 week workshop to coaching every single startup in their investment portfolio, and to solve very, very complex problems, right? So yeah, this one of the kind of like model they always describe in Google Design Sprint is every time you building a product is always the 4-step process. You have to ideate, you have to build the products, you have to launch the product, then actually learn from the market, then you iterate, right? That is the standard agile processes, right? What the thing that Google Design Sprint is promises is really you can skip step 2 and step 3. You have an idea, you can within 1 week actually having it fully realized to a stage which is the market can react to it. You can react to the market reaction, then iterate from there, right? So that you kind of cut out like the step 2 and step 3. We're gonna talk about this value of Google Design Sprint a little bit later. My way to describe it is you always almost like you feel like you are building a time machine, right? You think, oh, I have an idea, but it's all in my mind. But before you investing in millions of dollars of venture money and engineering resource, you can ride in this time machine, going to the 3 years later when this product is fully built, and you're able to see how the market react to this idea in your head, right? So this time machine kind of like metaphor is always the one I use quite a lot, right? Another thing, actually, I'm a design methodology geek, right? So my grad school IIT ID is quite the most thing they be proud of is design methodology. So I learned lots of design methodology at schools, but I love Google Design Sprint because for 4 reasons, right? I feel like it is built based on the classic IDEO design workshop methodology, but it's looking at every single weak point of what IDEO did not did right, and iterate and make it better, right? So this is the 4 things I find it improve upon the more traditional kind of design thinking workshop, so to speak, right? Number 1 is actually, I'm not sure you guys run sitting inside this kind of design workshop before, but there's always a chance like there is a heated debate might happen, right, between the managers and the designers and the boss. Then there's an endless debate happening, and it's kind of going in circles, right? They have a structure in place to avoiding the endless debate. That's number 1. Number 2, especially in Taiwan, which is we have a more hierarchical kind of organizational culture. You always have the problem of having the boss, the CEO, the VP of products is dictating the direction of the workshop should go, and actually the full creativity within the group is not fully utilized, right? So Design Sprint have some interesting methodology of avoiding the bossy boss problem, right? The third problem I find is solved is actually, I'm not sure you guys have joined Design Workshop before. Always there's a case like a salesperson or a product manager or a designer is very, very good at verbally presentation, right? So they were describing the idea in such a sexy, attractive fashion. But if you look at the raw quality of the idea, it's actually not that good, right? So actually they have a few ways to how to look at every single idea from every single person from the room, and have a very objective way to looking at what is a good idea, what is a bad idea, right? So that is there's no good presenter bias. Is the third reason I think Google Design Sprint is very superior. And lastly, is actually the last benefit I would say is always a solid result guarantee, right? You guys probably sitting in design workshops. Oh, you have out of the workshop, you have so many great ideas, but then the story ends there. All those great ideas sitting on the shelf, sitting in a report, sitting in a presentation, and never implemented in your company, in your organization. So Google Design Sprint did something very different. Is they really try to reinforcing a market validation at the end of the Google Design Sprint. So even before you have an idea, you already schedule your customer, real customer, coming to test the ideas, right? So this kind of like interaction with the real world, validation with the market, actually making all the ideas, all the creativity way more easy to implement to the next stage. Either you think you find your ideas to be not good, then it's great you learn that in a very early phase, or you get confidence of your idea is actually have a market value, then you have more confidence in investing your engineering resource, right? So a solid result guarantee, I think, is something very special for Google Design Sprint as well. So that is topic number one of why Google Design Sprint is awesome, and every single company or startup team should consider running it. But let me pause here and invite anyone who want to join me on stage to either add to this conversation, or you have a question regarding why running Google Design Sprint is awesome. Don't be shy. Raise your hand and join me on stage. And if you want to speak Chinese on stage, it's fine. I can translate. All right, don't be shy, guys. This is hopefully is a open forum and conversation. Okay, that's okay. That is the rule. I will just kind of like going through the 12 topics, and anyone who is wanting to have a visuals of my topic, you can click on my Twitter in my profile, my Clubhouse profile. I have the slides, which is I am using as a base material of working through today's room. Oh, someone is raising their hand. Fantastic.
Hello.
Hey, FB. I don't know what to call you.
Yeah.
How's it going?
That's good. Doing well, thanks, and thank you for inviting me up. I think the server is having some problems, so probably you haven't seen. Yeah, I have been reading the hand for a while when you started asking. But
yeah. I think the Clubhouse is this is a hot time.
Yeah.
I apologize for that. Yeah.
No problem. I'm just saying that because I'm wondering maybe other people has raised their hand as well, but it just doesn't show up on your end.
Yeah, that could be the case, because actually I try to, let's see if I add more people into the moderator. Julia, do you actually see other people raising their hand?
No, I could see it.
Okay, that's okay. Let's everybody try again. If you want to speak on stage, just try raising your hand again and see if we can see the signals on our end. But if you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I actually have a comment. So the problem you are talking about, that the director says something, the CEO says something,
yeah.
and so it's a very typical like HIPPO problem.
Yes.
That is seen very often in corporate.
Yes.
The HIPPO stands for the highest paid person's opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that problem is not just a one-way problem. Like the director says something, or the director thinks maybe he's the smartest guy in the room, but also that the team all in the room, typically there is, the team tends to take whatever the director is saying as a direction or as an order, even though the director just is saying an opinion or it's just giving an idea, but the team will take it as a direction.
Yeah, and you kill creativity, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think definitely, no matter who we are, like if we are a leader in the room, or we are just a team player in the room. Like we need to check our assumptions and bias and see whether this is the right way to go, rather than go full speed with it. Yeah, so that's just something I really resonates with me, and I want to mention it.
Yeah, totally. I feel like this is something as a leader you have to be extra aware, right? Because the reason you gathering all your designers or your PMs or your sales or customer service or engineers into a room, and this is very expensive, right? You're gonna run let's say 4 to 5 days workshop, and the best thing you want to get out is actually maximize all the creativity, all the domain knowledge, all the iteration you can do among this small group of people, let's say 10 people, right? And if you just want to make decision as a boss, then you can just make a decision as a boss. You don't need a workshop, right? So that is very like a mindset. I always kind of like coaching the CEO if I'm running a workshop for a startup, for example. It's like, okay, now you want people to go crazy on their creativity. Another thing I feel like the Google Design Sprint did a good job is they actually have a dedicated role called decider, and usually is the CEO, it is the VP of product who owning this decider role. Then because actually you're able to define it, you're able to constrain it, right? For instance, like voting structures, like every single person who interested to be passionate about their ideas, they have the chance to really express it fully, and the team can add on to that concept. As a decider, you can either even before you're making your final decision, there's so many stations and steps for making sure all the knowledge and all the creativity of your team is getting into your head before you make a decision, other than making a decision just based on your own instinct, right? So I find the decider role definition in Google Design Sprint is genius. I just kind of want to add on to some of the point you have, FB.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think the decider role also solves another problem, which is sometimes not only, so definitely we want to give everybody the opportunity to speak and having their own opinions. But sometimes the other problem is when you have all the equal voices, the team is really hard to make a decision, like land on a direction. Nobody is waiting to call the direction we're going to go, and having the decider, having that owner, resolve that problem, like break that.
Break that tie, basically.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like the decider sometimes the decider can play the role for breaking the tie. Sometimes it's the spring master. Myself is often play the spring master role, but those kind of like mechanics actually it's a power dynamic balance. Sometimes you want to constraining the person who have the most power, but sometimes you want to utilize that power to create efficiency. So having both force being balanced, I feel like is pretty fun. So we have Jasper actually joining us on the stage as well. Hey, Jasper.
Hello, hi, Ober.
Hey.
Thanks for the invitation.
No worries.
Nice to meet you, everyone.
Yeah, you have a comment or questions?
Yeah, let me have the brief introduction about myself.
Sure.
So I came from Taiwan too, and I'm working in Japan, a company like video streaming company as a CXO. So
nice.
I did run. So I'm also the global design chapter for Google for in the Japan community.
Oh, nice.
So about design sprint,
Nice.
I feel the design sprint is very different from in various culture. Especially in like Asia, and I think for the decision maker buy-in, or to be honest, I always thinking about design is kind of politics issue. You need to solve in the office politics first, and then come out with a good design.
Yeah.
And I think design sprint is really a good way to reduce the hierarchy and reduce the office politics, especially as you just mentioned about the decider. And I really like the session before the decider making decision is about the silence voting.
Yeah, we'll get to that in the few other topics later, but that is a great mention. Yeah.
But thanks for nice meeting everyone here.
Yeah. Awesome. Please stay on stage. Definitely, I feel I really love people have a Google Design Sprint experience, so you can fill in the gaps I miss. Right. Cool. So let's move on to the next topic. just resetting the room a little bit. So this is a 2 hours chat room for Google Design Spring. I'm a huge fanboy. And today's structure, if you click on my profile and click my Twitter, I have some slides as my talking base. But don't worry, if you don't want to click the slides, I will describe it verbally. So Design Spring is, I can break down to about 12, 13 different small exercises. Today, my plan is actually work through every single exercise. And I will describe how it works. I will describe how I use it in the 7, 8 workshops I have run. And I will invite everybody on stage to see if any comments to enhancing, add value to the conversation, or have questions regarding a certain Design Spring step, right? So let me move on to topic number 2, right? So topic number 2 is just kind of like just a brief overview of what is the 5 days of Google Design Spring may look like, right? Actually, I'm maybe even describing 4 days. If you guys are familiar with a YouTube channel called AJ and Smart, so they have proposed a new structure called the Design Spring 2.0. So you don't need 5 days, but only 4 days. And another beauty on top of it is like if your CEO and your VP of product is so busy, you may only need their time for 2 days. Right? So let me explain the day schedule a little bit here. So if you the most traditional, if you look at the Jake Nass book for the Google Design Spring, is 5 days workshop. Monday is how you map the application, your ideas. Tuesday is how you brainstorming and sketch and creating lots of ideas. Wednesday is how you make decision on what is the final idea you're gonna pick, or actually merging different ideas into one. Thursday is the day you prototype and build, simulating this final proposal into something end user can react to, or your target customer can react to. And Friday is the day where real customers and real users will show up and test your ideas, and you learn if your first hypothesis is validate or invalidate, and you learn. Right? So that is a quick walkthrough of the 5 days, most classic Google Design Spring 5 days workshop from Monday all the way to Friday. The Design Spring 2.0, they're basically merging the Monday and Tuesday into 1 day in a more compact fashion. And because if you think about the first 3 steps of Google Design Spring is you map, which is you define your goals, define your problems, sketch, which is you brainstorm, and then actually the third day is you decide what idea is the best, right? So if you think about the most important decision maker in your company, let's say your CEOs, your VP of products, your product managers, the most needed time is probably the first 3 steps of the Design Spring, right? So then actually the 4th day, the prototyping day and the testing day, usually if they don't have time, the product design team can operate that 2 days alone and share the learning of the testing with the whole group later. So that I find that it's a nice way to adapting to a busy exact schedule, right? So that is a little bit description on the scheduling for the Google Design Spring. Let's see. Okay, so this and let me, because actually we're doing because we're talking about scheduling in this topic section. Let's definitely talk about during the pandemic, and or you are working with global remote teams, how you run design sprints, right? Because this assumption of actually having 4 or 5 days of your teams is really you can physically be together, right? And really lock everybody into a room with no cell phones and kind of dedicate their time for 4 days straight. But you're not able to do it during the pandemic. So what gives, right? So I tried to run this twice in a remote fashion during this pandemic, where my team is located in United States, in India, in Amsterdam, right, and in UK as well. So just justifying the time, like I maybe only have 2 hours every day when every single team member is actually awake, right? But I feel like the beauty of the design sprint is really it have 12 series of small exercise. And the way I do it is like just carefully looking at the exercise structures, and I will do one exercise in a 2-hour session each day, then run that for roughly 2 weeks, right? So in this case, because when you're doing this kind of online workshop, it's very hard people to stay attention more than let's say 1 to 2 hours. And more than 2 hours, people get tired. So you cannot running like an 8 hours workshop online. It's impossible. It's not physically not possible, right? So we can work through what is the 12 exercise within Google Design Sprint later. But this is the way I do it. It's like I carefully chunk up the 12 exercise into maybe a 10-day schedule, and each day running for 2 hours. Right. So that is a little bit on the schedule logistic of Google Design Sprint. Anyone have comments or questions on this topic? And feel free to raise your hand. Me and Julia will invite you on stage. No matter if you want to add to this conversation or have questions, feel free. Anyone have Jester? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so actually you just mentioned about Agent Smart Design Sprint 2.0.
Yeah.
And actually I think the Design Sprint Academy, they also have the Design Sprint 3.0. So actually they're adding the 1 day.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
They're adding 1 day about problem framing at the beginning of the day 0. So I think the problem framing also very useful. So just for everyone as a reference.
Yeah, I talked with some of my friends working at Google. They sometimes will even do pre-user research leading to the design sprint. For example, like in the first day of design sprint, is lots of context debrief of understanding the problem, right? And in order to making the problem to be very condensed and very concise when the whole team is consuming it, they will the designers or the researcher at Google, they will running a few research sessions even before the design sprint in order to serving that problem summary session in the first day to be very solid, right? So definitely, I feel like a problem framing day or problem definition kind of schedule, I feel like is even, I think it's good, but I feel like it depends on what is the topic you're working on. Another thing actually I heard from Jake when joining his kind of like design sprint master training is actually he recommending even running 2 sprints back to back, or actually at least having scheduled 2 sprints, because the first sprint is more if you're working on a very broad idea, for instance, like choosing a startup topic, for example, right? The first sprint will give you a sense on the direction, just narrow down the direction. You're not even actually coming into a idea yet. Then actually the second sprint can really, you have learned so much in the first sprint. The second sprint you can actually really hit the target, right? So that's another interesting kind of like iteration of Google Design Sprint is having this kind of 2 sprint back-to-back structure as well. But thank you, Jester, for mentioning the Design Sprint 3.0. Actually, I haven't checked it out yet. So, all right. So since there's no more question for this, the scheduling topic, let's move on to the next topic. Resetting the room a little bit. If you guys, I'm actually working through a slide deck. If you are interested in looking at the videos, you can click on my profile and click on my Twitter. And the first tweet is a slide deck I am working through. But if you don't want to, that's fine. I will verbally describing the slides. Okay, now let's jump into the actual 12 exercise of Google Design Sprint. And the first exercise is called Ask the Experts, right? So no matter what problem area you're dealing with, usually you either internally in the company, you were able to find experts. Usually will be your engineers, or you will be your sales consulting, or you'll be your salesperson or your CSM. Those people who knowing the problem in a very, very deep fashion, they can come in to give you a talk around what is their understanding and the detail of the problem they observe, right? So there's an internal possibility of the expert. Another possibility of the expert is actually coming from external. You have I have inviting people from industry consultant, which is they are consulting within this larger industry, so they have a broad landscape understanding of the industry problem. I'm inviting those consultants to come in to speak with us. I have inviting analysts, people that, for instance, from Gartner or Forrester, which is they are senior researcher of a certain industry. They will have so many kind of domain contacts sitting in their head, and when they come in to give us a talk, help us to understanding the larger sense of the problem. And usually, because this is the first exercise of the day of the design sprint, I also asking all the people in the design sprint, this 10 people, your designer, your PM, your researchers, your CEO, to do exercise, a note-taking exercise, what called how might we, right? So every time you heard a single set of problem, right? How might we is a small, tiny brainstorming exercise of converting that problem to something, a idea, right? So let's say I give you one example here. Like let's say the problem the expert maybe is describing is let's say they are working on a map application, and people just cannot. The current issue of the map application is people cannot find relevant result. There's lots of noise in their search result in the map application, right? So they're describing this problem in a very vivid sense. They're describing how the end user is suffering from this pain. But on the flip side, when you're taking note, you say, how might we use location to show relevant results, for example, right? So you're instantly converting a very negative problem to a positive idea, right? And how might we, as a sentence, actually give the structure of possibility by the language itself, right? And when we're writing how might we notes, also there is always a risk of making your notes is your post-it note of the how might we is too broad or too narrow, right? Going back to the same example, the how might we note is too broad, maybe in the example of how might we make people happy because they want to find good search result. In that case, it's too broad, right? And the example of too narrow in the same example is how might we make the buy button blue, which is you're already getting to nitty-gritty detail of a solution, right? So that is too narrow, right? I feel like this the how might we exercise is to have two benefits. Number one is actually active listening of the expert, because the expert is sitting on stage and pouring out all their insights of a problem. By taking the how might we kind of exercise, you are using the group knowledge, kind of like listening filter, to picking out what is the most important information of the expert is pouring out, right? And it's a form of synthesis as well, because you are filtering what is the best, the most actionable problem, or the problem that inspiring the group the most, right? So that is the ask an expert and how might we exercise combining into one section as the first hour you kick off the conversation. Let me pause here to see if anyone want to jump on stage to ask questions or add the comments or any struggles when we're doing the how might we exercise, all this kind of stuff. Don't be shy. Just jump on stage. I will add anyone on stage if you're willing to raise your hand. All right, it's okay. Let's move on to the next topic then. So that after your think about your team. Your team is actually hopefully being inspired by this industry experts describing the problems as the way they understanding it. They taking lots of notes of how might we notes. There's a pile of post-it notes sitting in front of them. Then the next exercise is really they understanding the problem. Then you will jump into the next exercise of design sprint. It's called start at the end. I really see. I feel like this is one of the most enjoyable exercise. It's really you will try to actually describing if this problem is solved, right? Let's say because we now understanding this problem or this market have this struggle, and if actually we're able to solve it, then what is a beautiful life they may able to live if this problem is solved. So that is you try to describing start at the end. You're describing the end. The slides I'm putting in front of my face is like a huge mountain. You're describing what is the top of the mountain look like if actually the problem is fully solved. On the parallel, you always have like the Amazon always when they run their PM writing their PRD, they always have something called the future press release, right? Even like within when you're describing a product requirement, you also will write a press release at the day when this product is launched, and you are sending this press release to the media, and you're describing the value of your products, and just like how you do it in press release, you want to brag about it, right? Google have a similar exercise of the launching tweet. Like if you're launching a product, the Google main account will tweet about this product, and can you actually imagine how this tweet will be writing out? I have seen other thinking models like I will do. I'm not sure you guys have done this kind of like box exercise before. If you are as old as me, have used to buy box softwares like Microsoft Word, you buy it in a software box. So I remember there's an exercise of will give you a blank box, and you actually start painting on the box, because usually a software box, on the back of the box, you will say, oh, this software can do this, A, can do B, can do C. You're describing the value of the software before in order to imagine what is the end they look like, right? So all this thing is kind of like similar methodology and similar mental model of why defining an end at front is important. So usually I would run this exercise. Oh, now blue sky. This is describing what is the end user's life might look like if this problem is solved, and how they may even write a thank you note to us and describing thanking us to solving this problem, right? And I will ask every single people to write down this note, spend 10 minutes, and then actually voting for one or two, and actually everybody is resonating with. So this is the start at the end exercise. And the second part of the start at the end exercise is now looking at your own company, looking at your own team, looking at the place, what our software or our company can do today. Then you compare it to the top of the mountain. Then of course yourself is right now in the bottom of the mountain, right? Now that you're comparing these two extremes, then you start to listing out what is the blocker. What is the blocker to for you to climbing this mountain to the top of the mountain, right? Going through this mountain climbing metaphor is like you imagine, oh, there is a huge cliff who's blocking you to get to the mountain. There's a huge forest you need to kind of hike through. There's a river you need to kind of like go through. So all this thing translating into the real world is really could be we lack of engineering resource, or we're not able to define the market, or let's say we lack a certain type of technology, or our user interface is bad, right? All these things could be blocker for you to get to the point. Then actually, once you're listing out all the what we call the spring questions, if you read the book, they call it the spring questions. I call it the blockers. Now then you're trying to figure out what among all these blockers, all these kind of biggest things you have to remove, which one or two spring question you want to focus on, right? Probably sometimes you can up to 3 spring questions, but no more than 3, right? And another kind of like huge debate I always have is like, you probably want to pick the one you actually have some confidence you can solve, because some people may listing out the market problem of, because the stock market is bad and the financial may, or let's say Google may copy our products, and that is something you cannot control, right? So if you're not able to control it, there's no point to solving it internal, right? So you usually will picking some of the problem you feel like is important, but also able to solve by the team, right? In the last 3-4 years, right? So that sums up the second exercise, which is start at the end. Anyone have questions, comments, thoughts, experiences? Love to hear you guys' thoughts. All right, that's okay. So this moving on to the next topic or next exercise in Google Design Sprint, right? Oh, one point I forget. So for the finally decided end, the start at the end, the end, which is your North Star, as well as the spring questions, the blockers you pick, you want to actually write it on a very large poster. You want to post it on the most obvious place in your room, because that is your North Star. Later, every single question, every single debate, you maybe come back and looking at your North Star and think, okay, debate A, let's say option A and option B, which one will help us get closer to the North Star at the end, to the end? Which one actually able to solve the string questions, string problems better? Then actually that become a very important filters later when we're actually deciding our ideas, our debate. So that is one little last note regarding the start at the end exercise. But let me restart the room, reset the room a little bit here. So this is a Google, myself running quite a lot of Google Design Spring. Myself is a huge fanboy. So today I'm thinking to running this Clubhouse room in the sense of running through every single the 12 exercise of Google Design Spring, explaining how each step, how it works, how it may apply in a real world condition. And then actually after each topic, I will inviting the audience, anyone who have questions toward these steps or have comments to add value to the conversation, feel free. Then if nobody is raising their hand, I will just move on to the next topic. I plan to run this workshop all the way till 11 p.m. PST, and I probably will not able to run through all 12, but that's fine. Let's see how far we can go in terms of like the design spring exercise. Okay, the next exercise is called Make a Map, right? This is actually one of my most favorite exercise. I really feel that's another way. It's very user experience design as well. What it is you are drawing a journey map of what your current user, your current application, how it works today, right? So usually the journey map looking like you always on the most left of the map, you're pointing out the actors in the system. It's usually let's say let's take for example for a medical related application, and the user usually is the first part of your map. Let's say you have the patient, you have the doctor, and you have, let's say, a medical coordinator, right? That's the users of your current application, or even you are accessing a new space, or you want to create a startup, you still have this kind of targeted user persona in mind in the first place, right? Then you start drawing a map between how, let's say they want to achieving, let's say, assessing the patient is trying to looking at is there a new cancer trial they can apply to their cancer, right? So the doctor is helping them to locating the cancer trial. Let's take that startup idea as an example. If you read the book, naturally that is in the book as well. Then you actually start drawing the almost like a journey map. The patient have to make appointment first, then the doctor will searching for the database on what is the cancer trial is suitable. Then they make another kind of appointment with the patient, discuss which trial they should do. Then actually the doctor then will actually communicate with the coordinator to say, okay, can I ask this lab to enrolling this patient to this cancer trial? Then actually the patient can start this new therapy, which is still in the trial phases, right? So you're able to kind of drawing out a real life map for what is the last sequence of journey look like today, right? So that is the real life map. You're not drawing the future map. You're drawing what it is real today. And usually the reason you're able to draw this map is because you have listened carefully of what the experts have said in the first session, right? Then actually the next step of drawing to making a map exercise is we don't for the design spring is really you want to apply focus. We don't want to kind of solve every single pain point across this whole map, but you want to highlight which part in the journey is the bottleneck, which part of the journey needs the most improvement, which part of the journey, which step in the journey actually requires the team actually pouring resource to solve it, right? So remember, actually, you have collecting a bunch of this kind of how might we post-it note at your first exercise of asking expert. Now actually is an interesting point, like the team will taking out your pile of how might we post a note and paste it on a certain journey map step associated with the how might we note. So this is actually the collaborative filtering mechanism start to emerge. Like because you will start to highlight, okay, the whole team, every single the 10%, all thinking this a certain step inside this journey map is really the bottleneck, and using this to create a focus on which step in this journey you want to solve within this design sprint. Right. So this is if you're looking at the start at the end exercise, if you're looking at picking the sprint questions exercise, if you're looking at make a map exercise, it's all a mechanism for focus, right? You if you try to solve every single problem, meaning you're not able to solve any problem, right? So how are you able to knowing what is success look like, which is the end, knowing which problem to solve, and which part in the journey map you want to focus, you give you a way better efficiency down the road in this design sprint. Okay, so that is the make a map exercise in the Google Design Sprint day 1. Right? Anyone have? Let me pause here and see anyone want to have any questions for the make a map step. Either you have questions or you have comments. Please feel free to raise your hand, and I will not feel so alone with Julia on the stage.
So maybe we should invite people to come up.
All right, I guess I'm gonna grab Lydia. All right, I'm gonna grab the people I know first. All right, it's okay. Let's move on to the next topic. Oh, Amelia, thank you for joining. You have been grabbed by me on the stage.
Sorry, because I'm working right now, so I just come to listen to what you are talking about. So
No worries, no worries. Do you have a comments or questions, or are you not able to speak right now?
I didn't get you actually. Yeah, I just come here. So
Got it. No worries, no worries. When you later you have any comments and questions, please feel free to just unmute yourself and just jump in.
okay, no problem.
Don't be shy.
Okay, later.
All right. Again, anyone who want to jump on stage if you have a question or comments, feel free. So I see a few people just joining the room, so just resetting the room a little bit. So this 2-hour session for the Google Design Sprint. So myself, I'm a huge fanboy for Google Design Sprint, running 7 Sprint myself. So this exercise is today I will walk through the 12 different exercises of Google Design Sprint one by one on a topic base. I'm describing how a certain step works, how I apply it into different workshops during Google Design Sprint, and I will invite anyone on stage who either have a comments for this certain steps for the sprint, or have questions on how to execute it. So please don't be shy. Join me on stage, so I'm not so alone with Julia and Amelia on stage. So for that being said, let's move on to the next step of the Google Design Sprint. By the way, so any people who want to have a visual, you can click on my Twitter. Click on my profile and click on my Twitter. I have a slide deck over there. But if you don't want to, that's fine. I will verbally describe the slides. All right. So let's move on to day 2. So right now, imagine your whole team is kind of syncing all their thinking, their thoughts, their listening, and try to kind of like spend all their brain power to understanding the problem. That's the genesis of the exercise. They ask the expert, they understanding what is from expert opinion, what is the problems. They imagine what is, if the problem is solved, what is the bright future you may bring to your users. You knowing between your starting point, which is your company's current condition, until the end, what is the blockers in between, and you identify which blocker is the most important blocker to solve, you're mapping out a journey map of what is the current journey of your user to achieving a certain task, right? And also you're highlighting a certain step inside your journey, which is the bottleneck, is the part you need lots of improvement, right? So that all of that is day one, is all about learning. Now actually you have all the problems, kind of like all the information posting on the whiteboard in people's head. Now actually is the point you start to connecting dots, right? So that we getting into the sketch/brainstorming section. One of the exercises I like a lot is when you're looking for solutions, is doing almost like a competitor research. So actually I will assigning every single people to do this even before the workshop, for them to what we call the lightning talks in the Google Design Sprint. What it does is actually you went out spending, let's say, half hour just browsing through the web, looking for competitors may be able to solve the problem you're understanding in day one pretty well. So you can like taking screenshots or taking copying their landing page and able to presenting this comparative solution to your team. So this is something so cool, actually maybe able to solve our problem. But sometimes you have to go beyond your industry and your industry competitors, and for other fields, maybe there's something that Hollywood did or something like the bioscience field did. Then the solution they created in a very different industry, in a very different field, but you're still able to bring it back to inspire your team to create solution on top of that, right? So that is what called the lightning talks. I really like it because usually your creativity really kind of bursts by looking at great solution in the world already. We often say like the future is already here, just not evenly distributed. This is a perfect example that we should looking outward first to collecting great solution that can solve our problem, right? And sometimes you matching up great solution out there to create new solutions to solve the problem in a deep fashion, right? So that is one part I like a lot as well in the lightning, because you start to see the genesis of the solution, right? So that is the lightning talks section of the exercise of the Google Design Sprint. Anyone have questions or comments of this step? Oh, someone raising their hand. Great. Let me refresh. Hey, Amy.
Hi.
How's it going?
Yeah, thank you. My English is pretty poor, so
No worries.
I'll do my best. Okay. I just heard that you mentioned when you go through a design sprint, you will have a North Star posted maybe in the meeting room.
Yeah.
So do we need to find out a business direction or strategy? Is it a dependency of starting a design sprint, or we can discuss our business directions in the design sprint? And that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like the business direction, sometimes when we're defining the end, usually there's an internal point of view and there's an external point of view. The external point of view is usually more qualitative, right? You say you are imagining your customer or your user is describing the value of when the problem is solved, right? That is very qualitative. But from the internal perspective, is you maybe have revenue goals, right? So if we solve this problem, we're able to conquer this market and we'll earn $400 million, right? You can have revenue goals and business objective in that case. But usually, because you have your CEO, your product manager, sometimes you have your finance, you have your CFO in the room, right? And they will offering this kind of like a way to defining the end. I think that is a helpful conversation. But I feel like it's very important for the team to really visualizing what does that end look like. That's the reason why the qualitative user value description is very important, because it's more solid. Let's say you want to say you're setting a goal of, let's say if we solve this problem, we're able to make $400 million. But that didn't inspire you to create solutions, right? Right. But if you have a end goal which is well described in a story format, right, that is more inspiring, that is more inspiring for you to create better ideas and better solutions. So that is one. I think you can have those kind of financial and business objective discussion for sure, but always defining the end to be something that people can be excited about, right? So something that people can be inspired about. If it's just numbers, I don't feel like it's that inspiring. I don't know. Maybe salespeople will be very passionate about or excited, but not everyone, right? So, but that's a great question, Amy.
Thank you. Really helpful.
Awesome. Feel free to stay on stage if you want to chime in for any comments and questions. I want more people on stage. That is my selfish request. All right. Thank you, Amy, for answering the question. This move on to the next exercise of Google Design Spring. So now actually you have understanding your problem pretty well, understanding your goal pretty well. You have learned about the outside world, some interesting solutions that you can assemble, right? So that is the part where the true brainstorming starts, right? So Harvard actually did a research saying if you're doing this kind of group brainstorming exercise, it's very people usually because it spend lots of time and to kind of you have to squeeze out ideas and you don't have time to actually sink into the problem and having some deep thoughts. Actually the performance if you're doing a group brainstorming actually is way lower if everybody is doing the brainstorming alone. And this is something that Harvard did the research. So Jake actually just take this Harvard research and try to designing in the sense how you're able to be creative but work alone at the same time, right? So there's a 4 steps of he laying out what is called the four-part sketching, which every single person can do it alone, but not interacting with other people because you want to soak into the problem context, right? The first thing is you want to go around the room. The room actually on the wall is already have lots of post-it notes for your how many we exercise, for your end goal, for your spring questions, for your journey map. It's lots of information on and have maybe some printouts for the lightning talks, which is competitive research. Everything's on the wall, right? So I will inviting every single one to take a piece of paper and start to collecting every single piece of information around the room into one, let's say 1 to 2 A4 paper, letter size paper, right? So you can collecting all the information and it's sitting in front of your face. So you're doing a note stage. And the next stage is like you will kind of like processing all the this piece of insights you have collected, and then you start to doodle. You're drawing little figures and try to forming ideas. Then actually we're collecting the whole group and we're doing an exercise called the Crazy 8. So it's in the next 8 minutes, we'll set the timer up, and every single 1 minute you have to write down one idea. Usually you are folding a piece of A4 pictures paper into 8 sections, and you will have starting the clock, and every single minute everybody have to kind of like draft out one small idea for solving the problem. Right? So that's called the Crazy 8. It's really 8 minutes, 16 minutes. You're able to kind of like pumping out lots of ideas. Then actually, if the time allowed, usually I will stop. Sometimes I will forming that like maybe 2 people are forming a small group, or 2 to 3 people forming a short group to debrief some of the Crazy 8 ideas they have. But if you don't have time, this step can be removed. Then the most important part of this brainstorming exercise is every single person, all 10 person in in this workshop have to spending a good, let's say 30 minutes to 1 hour of time to create a single proposal, what we call the crazy one. This single proposal have to be self-explanatory. You will not actually have too much chance to presenting this idea. So lots of times people will have illustrations for describing ideas. They have detailed write-up of a certain section of the idea. But it is a complete proposal from yourself and presenting to the whole group, right? So that the line over here is have to be so clear that it can self-explain. And lots of people actually, for the engineers or the PMs in the room, they feel a little bit hesitate because I'm not an artist type. I don't know how to draw. But usually, it's surprisingly, usually the best idea is coming from the people who say they cannot draw, right? So in terms of like illustrating your ideas with visuals, the bar is very low. Even if you can draw stick figures, that usually is sufficient for you to illustrating your crazy one proposal. So that is the sketching part of the Google Design Sprint. Let me pause here. And we also have Ave joining us on stage. Thank you, Ave. Have any questions, comments to add to the conversation?
Hi, Albert.
Hey, Ave.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the sharing. My question is actually, I'm not sure if I should pose you here by the question, but I will just speak it up.
No worries.
I'm actually quite curious about when you mentioned that we heard from the experts about the insights and the problems to solve, and then we narrowed down to a few key problems to run the design sprint.
Yeah.
I'm curious about what if we don't have the expert to get those insights and problems from, and then we have to figure out ourselves. Perhaps you can share some metrics or the way to evaluate what's the important insights or the key problems that worth to take action.
Yeah, because Google Design Sprint is designed for startups, right? So, and the base assumption is starting with the CEO or the VP of product is in the room, and usually they actually at least have containing some expertise on what is the biggest problem they want to solve with the industry sector you are in. So I feel like the first layer will be the product leaders in the room to us, the expert. That's the solution number one. Solution number two, that's what I see in Google. What they did is before Design Sprint, because they know they think, oh, we may not be able to invite the right expert, right? So the researcher and designer will do pre-research. They were actually interviewing customers. They were interviewing the field teams like sales or CSM, and collecting their description of what is the problems might look like. And they were presenting a report and using that as a substitute for the expert, right? And lastly is that you're able to actually utilize your network, actually find the expert, and the expert will show up in the room, right? Sometimes actually another other input I see in the past is like for gardeners, for Forrester, they have this kind of industry trend report to highlighting what is the future opportunities, what is the new problems is arising in the industry. They say for manufacturer, for example, right? Then actually they will have a summarized report presentation to summarizing a Gartner report, for example, and that is also can serve as a almost like an expert as well. So this is the four different ways I see people. You need to start with understanding of the problem. And the understanding of problem usually coming from the real world, but it will proxy into your workshop in different format, lack of better words, right? And I also think when you're collecting, building your 10 people team for running the workshop will be great, actually, to have people already have great domain contacts. Usually it's the people who is the salespeople, it's the CSM, it's your support team. Those people usually have built-in lots of industry problem in their head because that's their job, right? So that is another form that I will sourcing the expert to understanding the problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully that is helpful, Eva. Yeah. Sometimes just designer is a bit hard, right? I do see that this could be a challenge. So, but actually, I feel like this is for a designer. Usually, you are the person who running the design sprint. But I feel like this is a testimony of your organization skill as well as your networking skill. One interesting story I heard is like in Google, if a designer is wanting to be promoted to the next level, let's say from junior to senior, for example, running Google Design Sprint, organizing it, facilitating it actually is one of the required aspects of promotion. Yeah, so think about it, right? It's not just we're getting out of our day-to-day operating in our design software mode and getting into a highly collaborated and information analyze mode, right? So I think every single designer should train themselves to how to run a Google Design Sprint, because this will help you quite a lot in your collaboration and capability. Yeah. Awesome. So this move on to the next exercise. We have about 40 minutes left. No worries. So the next exercise in the Google Design Sprint. So okay, now your crazy one. Everybody spend a whole hour and maybe during the lunch break have written down they think it is a masterpiece. They are so proud of their crazy one ideas. Then the next step is what we call the now you have to decide among these 10 ideas coming from every single 10 member in a workshop, how are you able to pick the best ideas or the best ideas to merge into the proposal, and you're gonna build a prototype and test it with your user at day 5. So in order to decide, the first exercise is called Art Gallery and Heat Map, right? So Art Gallery, just like the name itself. So when you go into Art Gallery, you're quiet, right? You are working through the gallery and you are kind of appreciating the art and actually analyzing the art and taking it, right? So that's exactly what this exercise did. It's a silent review. So all the kind of like crazy one is either print out or people is crafted using Post-it note and papers. We'll post it on the wall. Then we'll have, let's say, 10, 15 minutes. Everybody not saying a single words. Everybody just kind of like looking at every single ideas in a very detailed fashion. Hopefully you can digest and appreciate it. When you're doing this silent review for every single ideas, you have this kind of like a bunch of little dotted sticker on your hand. And if you like an idea, you just put the dots on it. If you like an idea a lot, you can put 10 dots on it. Doesn't matter, right? It's really a first layer of voting, just kind of like assessing people's excitement level. There's no limited on how many votes people can do. That's the reason it's called the heat map, right? So then actually after this art gallery and heat map exercise, you're looking at all these 10 ideas, all 10 crazy ones, and you will see a heat map of what this area of ideas people like it a lot and some ideas not, right? So that is the first layer of this decide to really making sure every single idea is fully digest. And I feel like the reading format is really the beauty over here, but not presenting. Right? Okay, let me pause here for any questions or comments regarding the art gallery / heat map exercise.
Or if you have any problem, you can just send a DM to us if you are shy to go on stage to speak.
Yep, feel free to DM my Instagram, but I may not check it right now, but I will get back to you later. Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's move on. In this case, let's move on to the next stage. Resetting the room a little bit. This is a room about Google Design Sprint. I will run you through all 12 exercises of exercising the Design Sprint. Every single step I will describe in detail of how it works, how you're able to do it yourself. And if you have comments because you have run it before and you think I'm missing something, feel free to jump on stage. And as well, if you have questions to running a certain steps, come on stage. I will try my best to answer your question. So let's move on to the next exercise in the Google Design Sprint. It's called the Speed Critic. Actually, this is the most genius step, I think. I feel like this is, I really like this exercise. I feel like it is, it separates Google Design Sprint from other design methodology, design workshop methodology by a huge amount, right? So this is, if you're gonna pay attention, I feel like the Speed Critique is the one I will recommend you to pay attention. Right. So what Speed Critique does is you, again, every single person have already in the art gallery review all 10 crazy ones, right? and they also have a basic preference because they have doing the heat map dotted sticker, right? So next level is how we really kind of like dissect every single ideas, but preventing the good presenter bias, right? So usually the first step of speed critique is usually driven by the Spring Master or the facilitator. The facilitator will looking at a single idea, and they will describing the ideas as he understands it. He will highlighting the part he like. He will and go from there. And of course, don't forget the dotted sticker will helping the facilitator to choose which part to highlight in this debrief, right? Then after the facilitator describing what he's seeing is great about this idea, then the group will jump on stage to say, "Oh, Albert, you were doing a good job to summarizing it, but you're missing this, you're missing that." The group will add on the thing that they think is great and the facilitator have missed. Then the third round is actually the idea owner. Finally, they are probably sitting on their hand, hesitating to, "Oh, you guys get my idea wrong. I really want to expand." Finally, the idea owner can jump on stage to explaining anything that the facilitator or the whole group either missing or get it wrong, right? So this really kind of like downgrading the presenter effect really to the lowest. Then as well, we able to for the whole group to really understanding the value and the detail of a idea, right? So that is for the speed critique. Speed critique is very time consuming. You really want to spend a good 10-15 minutes on each idea. So if you have 10 ideas, then it will be 150 minutes, right? So usually I will block a solid 2 to 3 hours on speed critique. So this is really the meat of the work. Some people actually get inspired during the speed critique session and coming out with new ideas. That is fine as well, but that will you have to kind of like really add it to your ideas and modify your ideas in real time. Okay, so that is speed critique. Any comments, questions, thoughts on this exercise regarding to speed critique? Let me take a sip of water. All right. Let's move on to the next exercise. Actually, we're good. We're doing pretty good. I think we may be able to go through the whole thing. All right. So now, actually, move on to the next exercise. This is actually one of the most critical decision point. If your CEO is having meetings and your VP of products is having phone calls and popping out in and out of the room, at least they have to show up for the straw poll and the super vote section, right? Because this is the part they absolutely require to be present, right? So over here, the full team is understanding every single 10 ideas in a very, very deep fashion because you going through the art gallery, the heat map, as well as the speed critique. Now you do a second vote, right? So every single member can only have one vote only, and you have to vote for the one which you really think this is something worth our team's time to prototype tomorrow, spending the whole day prototyping tomorrow, and you really think this proposal really can solve the problem, as we highlighted in day one, and you only have one vote, right? So that is and people often ask, can I vote for myself? My question is fine, is yes, but everybody have to trust everybody in terms of like you are making a judgment to cast your vote in terms of you truly believe this solution can solve this to bring you to the end, can solve your spring questions, but not from a selfish point of view. So, okay, because I think my idea is the best, right? So you have to trust everybody to have that creative confrontation, right? And so that with that in mind, we allow people to vote for themselves if they really think that idea meeting the requirement, right? So everybody will vote one vote. Then actually the next step is every single person have to get on stage. What we call is what is called the straw poll. It is a political term in the US politics. Is you can basically influencing the final vote, right? So you have to get on stage to explaining why I vote for this idea, and that is actually a pitch or your power of influencing the decider decision. Then actually the decider can come in to actually cast the final vote. Usually, sometimes actually the decider will come in to pick the highest vote one. Then that is the end of the day. Sometimes actually the deciders think, this is actually one great idea, but there's lots of small ideas actually across the board. It's very interesting that he may pick a core idea, but merging small ideas into this core idea. This is called the all-in-one. There actually there's a chance actually the decider think, this is two distinct, very distinct, separate and polar opposite idea, but both of it is worth researching and prototyping and vetted with market. Then he may pick up to two directions, what we call rumble, in order for us to pick as the final decision, right? But hopefully, if the decider is not aligned with the voting done by the team, at least they have to explaining the rationale of why he voted against the team, right? But because of all the prior steps, all the decider have heard the explanation of why people voting for ideas. Hopefully, they have participated in a Speed Critic, so they understanding every detail, ideas in detail. So hopefully all this information is in decider's head, so they can make a very sharp and accurate decision. So that is straw poll and super vote. And I feel like this probably is the most controversial step within the Google Design Sprint. So I'm interested in everybody's thoughts. Anyone have comments, questions regarding the straw poll and the super vote? Don't be shy. Okay, no worries. Let's move on. I feel like the next few steps is all very designer centric. I know actually lots of designers in the room, right? So this is the part where usually is our alley. So I don't feel like this part is that for the people who's not design background, maybe can learn something new. But this part is actually more old news to designers. So the next step, okay, right now you have choosing a crazy one, maybe adding with a few sub ideas from other crazy one, and you forming. Here's a draft proposal of the thing you're gonna prototype and test it at Friday, right? So what is the next step? Actually, this is a step actually invented by AJ Smart. I feel it is quite efficiency driver when we converting a draft idea proposal to a full prototype, right? So you need this kind of like a few intermediate steps to make it more efficient. And this step is called the user test flow. Again, for people who want to have a visuals, feel free to click on my profile and click on my Twitter. I have my slides. I'm actually on slide 22 if you are looking at my slides. So this exercise is interesting. It's based on a classic UI UX methodology of if a user want to complete a task, right? Going back to the example of a patient want to locate a cancer trial for them to treat themselves, right? So let's say that is a task they want to do. Usually, the best case scenario is you always can complete that task in 6 separate steps, right? So that is actually either 6 separate clicks or 6 separate processes step. Doesn't matter, right? Usually it's 6 steps you have to be able to complete, completing that task, right? So now every single 10% will looking at this final proposal decided in the super vote. Then they will take 6 post-it notes to write down, okay, how I able to taking this proposal, break it apart, and able to guiding this user or users to accomplish their task from step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 to step 6. Every single person have a way to think about this proposal and how they think it should break into 6 different steps. Right? Then actually they will put, let's say a 10 person, they will put those 6 post-it note row by row, so you have a metric like a 60 post-it note in front of you. Then actually the group will kind of like scanning and voting for which flow they think is the best, right? As well, sometimes they will find, oh, maybe it is this another flow which is not the best, but a certain step in the flow is very awesome. Then they can vote for that as well, right? So this step is really trying to break it down to large steps, and in order to have to bridge that to the next step for the storyboarding, right? Think about is more your PM is writing a user flow steps, right, in their PRD before you convert that to wireframes, speaking in a designer language. I do find this step, the user test flow, straighten out the storyboard step quite a lot. It's making it more efficient and saving time as well. So yeah, this is anyone have any comments, questions regarding the user test flow step? All right, let's move on. So the next step, we're getting close to the end. So it's the storyboard. It's really, you have to think yourself, usually it's the facilitator or actually the person who is very good at drawing on whiteboard who are helping the team to actually draw out this storyboard. Storyboard is almost like a comic, right? So you kind of like drawing out every single step and illustrating it in almost like a wireframe format, right? But remember, in the last step, in the user test flow, you already have 6 post-it notes to describing how this final proposal may be laid out in 6 steps. Then your job is really putting this 6 post-it note on the whiteboard and start to drawing out those 6 post-it notes, almost like writing a comic book. Sometimes you are drawing a UI. Sometimes you are drawing a user, like 2-person, like a user interactions, if you actually involve some service element, for example. Or sometimes actually, if you are working on a physical product, you may be drawing the interaction between human and that physical product, for example, right? But the way you do it is really taking the 6 steps post-it note you did in your previous step and visualize that into a comic book, right? Same thing if you do a wireframe exercise when you're receiving a PRD from your product managers, right? People want the pictures, can go to the slides, but I think this part is also time consuming, so you probably want to block a good 1 hour on top of it as well. Yeah. Any questions and comments for the storybook section for the design sprint? All right, that's totally fine. Let's move on to the next step of the designing exercise. Now it's just prototyping. Prototyping, I don't feel like it's that, I don't need to teach everybody how to do prototyping. I know there's lots of designers in the room know how to do prototype, but it's really the metaphor I would draw. Like if you ever go to Hollywood and go to the this kind of like West, Wild West kind of like town, it's always like if you're walking on the main street, it looks so real. Of actually, you will see the all this kind of historical. You can see horses on the side. You see this kind of historical buildings on the side of the road. But if you go around the building, you see it's all fake. Everything is just kind of like put together with wooden boards and just kind of like on the street level, you will not able to tell it is a fake street. but if you go around, you'll see it's totally fake. So that is the concept of the prototyping. It's really you want to simulating the end solution experience with your tester. So till the level they not quite able to kind of like tear it apart, right? And then that is the genesis of your prototype, right? So you don't actually have to build out every single flows within your solution, your app, but at least the core flow you want to focus on. You want to actually prototype that core flow, right? You'll have 1 day to do that. I have actually run into hearing people even try to prototype VR application and try to hack around a prototype for during the prototyping day. So even if you can prototype with VR, I think any prototype can be built. Usually at the prototyping day, if your team, your engineering, your engineers, your marketers, your sales still want to join the prototyping day, you can assigning different tasks to them. Usually there's like the maker, which is the people who making your strings. There's usually for the people who don't have design skills, we can assign them to collecting assets and little icons and visuals, or let's say pictures to show in the UI. You will have writers, but usually the marketing people is very good at writing. So if you're gonna, they will be responsible for writing the marketing copy. Usually have something called a stitcher. It's like, okay, this designer doing screen A and that designer doing screen B. Then the stitcher is actually the person who needs to stitch all the flow together. And also you can assigning a interviewer, which is all the things that during the prototyping day, all the things they have to think about is what is the interview questions they should ask during the last day, right? And usually you will at the end of the prototyping day, you will grab a friend to just kind of testing out your prototype and to see anything you can improve, right? But if your engineering team and your non-designers don't want to join, then in that case, the prototyping day will be just designers. Unfortunately, that it depends on what the schedule look like. We always inviting, it would be great actually for the non-designer to prototyping with us, but if they really don't want, that is acceptable as well. Any question for the prototyping stage or comments? Or like, I don't know, there's horror stories for the prototyping stage. I would love to hear that as well.
Or just come up to say anything you think about it and practice your English.
It's okay. Next time, probably next week I maybe run a Chinese version of this same talk. But today, let's try the English version. All right, let's move on to the a few final steps in the Good Design Sprint. I feel like the last day is the research day. I feel like this is the most exciting day. Like the whole week, the team have put their heads together. They have built a very kind of like sexy and a prototype. They really think this prototype can be solving the final goal, right? Then this user is coming up, showing up, right? During the pandemic, I usually do this by scheduling via a remote session, and usually if you in B2B, or sometimes in B2C, to scoring a participant usually take more than 2 weeks. So usually even before Design Sprint starts, I already will jump on the schedule for scheduling the users or customer to be interviewed at day 5. So actually that is a great pressure you can give it to the team, because they have to squeeze out something, because they know actually real customer is on the line to testing this prototype at day 5. Right. So actually, I think actually it's a very good forcing function for quality. Yeah. So the recommendation in the book is 5 participants. I feel like at least 3 is the most minimal. I feel like less than 3 is not enough, right? Usually, if you do it in the physical format, we recommending a 2-room setup. It's like one room is the test participant and the interviewer will walking through the prototype and asking questions. And another room, the whole team will gather in another room, having a huge whiteboard and writing down the sprint questions. Do you guys remember the sprint question sections? And okay, with sprint question 1, sprint question 2, sprint question 3. Then they will, when they are going through the prototype and looking at how the user reacting to the prototype, and they will writing notes around, oh, this sprint question is solved, not solved, or actually partially solved, right? So they will start actually validating if the solution they come up with is actually able to solve the problem or not. And the problem is the first sprint problems they're listing out in day 1, right? So this is the thing that the team is doing on the side in a different room, observing the interview. Right? And this is a very simple kind of like description of how you do interview. If you never actually do user interview before, right? Usually you can start with a friendly welcome. Just kind of like get to know each other, so it's less awkward when you starting the conversation. You asking the context question, you asking their background. Okay, what is the age, what industry they work for, what they do in their job, what is the biggest pain point in their current operations. Do you have this context question being asked? Then actually is you will introducing the prototype and you will set expectation saying this is a fake prototype we have built. We have tough skins. Yeah, feel free to think out loud and give us any feedback. We will not get offended, right? You're doing this kind of introduction to the prototype. Then actually you will walk them through by task. Let's say you're asking them to say, okay, I know you have. Imagine you have a certain type of cancer, and what is and this here's a few cancer trial the system recommended to you. Can you walk us through which cancer trial you'll pick and what is the information make you to make that decision, for example? Right? So that is a example of you setting up a task for them to do and see how they will operate the prototype to achieving that task. Sometimes they're able to, and sometimes not able to. That's fine. We can ask why they're able to do it and why they're not able to do it. Okay. And lastly, you will all the things at the end of this kind of 45 to 1 hour interview with the user. You will summarize all the things you learn from the interviewer will summarize all the things you learn from this user, and just to make sure it's a confirmation step to make sure you really capture the main insights from the user, and as well as like if user have any additional insight, they can pile it on the last debrief section, I would say. So that is the research day. Any questions for the research day? Questions, comments, thoughts? Okay. Actually, that is all the 12 different steps of Google Design Sprint, and we walk through every single step. Actually, I'm very surprised we were able to do it in 2 hours. But I guess if people jump on stage, it will take a little bit longer. But yes, we go through every single steps. If you are interested, actually you can click on my profile and click on my Twitter. So I have the full slide deck capturing every single steps we just walked through today. And I encourage you guys to run Google Design Sprint. I think it's awesome. I think it's really, especially if you're working in startups, this is a very fast fashion to solving a very complex problem. And I wish you guys actually can come out to me in the future to tell me the story how you run a Design Sprint, and I want to hear your success. So, any last questions, comments for the topic of Design Sprint?
Can I ask another question?
Totally.
I have hosted several design sprint before,
Mhm.
but I think it is quite difficult to convince your manager or boss to start design sprint,
Mhm.
or even though you just finished a design sprint, but they didn't want to deliver the come out into a true release product.
Mhm.
So I think it's pretty hard for me to
Yeah.
push this kind of outcome.
Yeah, I feel like
So it's
we have to avoid design sprint because I feel like the name is a little bit like a curse. We have to avoid it is a designer thing, right? And eventually, it is a great vehicle, a great tool when the company need to solving a very complex problem. My experience actually for a company context is we are always waiting for a moment when the company is thinking deeply around the next year vision, for example, right, or the next market we want to get into, for example, right. So there is always you have to start it with a strong business drive, like coming all the way from the top of the CEO, say, okay, we really need to actually craft this vision because we just acquired a company, for example, or we really need to craft this vision because we are competing with a new large competitors, or we're getting into a brand new market. So you have to start with a business momentum. If complex problem that we really need to put our heads together, and sometimes the exec will kind of like facilitating meetings for those conversations, and that is where the design director, senior designer can step up, say, okay, right now there's a big business problem you try to solve. Design sprint is a great methodology, can help, and let me explain what this is, right? So I in the company, in order to establish, I feel like you need, for at least for your first design sprint, I feel like you need a real business opportunity behind it. Then the design sprint kind of ride on top of it. Then actually people will taste the value of design sprint. Hopefully it's successful. Then actually the next time they think about planning, they think about future, they will think, oh, let's run the design sprint. Right. So that is my recommendation of how to start your first design sprint and having business support, your exec support, to make it successful. Then actually this week talk about. Then I feel like that if you follow that process, I think the outcome of the design sprint is more actionable because actually the drive, the initiation is starting from the exec in the first place. So if the outcome, they of course the reason they push you, they want to solve this problem, you will have done the design sprint, then they have more motivation to implementing the ideas coming out of it. I feel like designer have to be a little bit be invited to do the design sprint, but not always be the person who say, I want to do a design sprint because I'm a designer. Usually I didn't see that working. Yeah. All the things I see design sprint actually working is the initiation is actually coming from the executive. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. The best design sprint outcome I actually did is a startup I'm advising. I'm not their employee. I'm just an advisor, and they really facing a very they are assessing the new assessing the Japan market, for example, at that time. Then really think how we're able to tap into from a Taiwan market to a Japan market, and I'm running a 3-4 days kind of design sprint with them, and because they invite me to do that, so they are so serious. The CEO is actually part of that conversation. Everybody is so active and passionate during the design sprint. And out of the 3-4 products we imagine during the design sprint, in the next 2 years, they build every single of it. And actually, they're changing their whole business based on one single design sprint. Right? So just want to kind of like give you a a success example of what the best outcome of design sprint can bring us. Right? I feel like we need more success story to cheer us up as a designers. That's for sure.
Yeah, true.
Cool. So actually, we are at the 2 hours mark of our chat. We actually went through the whole design sprint presentation and steps and instructions. Emmy and Abe have asking great questions. Thank you guys so much. Let me end the room here, and if you guys is interested, feel free to DM me on Twitter or Instagram, and I love to see some loves from you guys. So I know if I want to have similar events in the future.
Thank you everybody for joining us, and hope to see you next time.
All right, thanks a lot. See you guys.
Thank you very much, Albert and Julia. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
All right, later, guys.